Hello there guys and welcome, it is Niran here and today it's time for me to bring you episode number 18 of our Sainz career mode here on F1 2015, which of course means it is the penultimate round of the season, only one more race to go after our visit here to Brazil. Last time out we were at Mexico. If you missed that race, there was some last lap drama and excitement, I suppose you could say, for Sainz and the two Williamses, so haven't seen that already, go and check it out. A link will be in the description as well as a link to the playlist. By the way, the support on this new channel, FNG Racing, has been mad so far. Over 30 likes on the start of Sainz career mode stuff over here and MotoGP stuff too, so thank you guys so much for that. As you can see, it's raining for practice, so there might be rain in the air for the race, but before we see what happens in the race, let's take a look at the qualifying report. Kimi Raikkonen showed promising pace in the first session as he was fastest from Nico Rosberg. Max Verstappen will be wondering where it all went wrong in 18th as he was eliminated along with both the McLarens. Q2 would be led by Lewis Hamilton as Mercedes looked to take back their usual dominance. Daniel Kvyat finally seems to have got the hang of qualifying as he made it through to the shootout at the expense of Marcus Ericsson in 11th and shock casualty Valtteri Bottas. But in Q3 it would be Kimi Raikkonen back on top, taking a fantastic pole from both the Mercedes. Pastor Maldonado took a solid 9th for Lotus, with Carlos Sainz just behind in 10th. So reading from 10th upwards, it's Carlos Sainz and Pastor Maldonado on row 5 and 10th and 9th respectively. Felipe Massa took a fantastic 8th at his home Grand Prix just behind Daniel Kvyat in 7th. Daniel Ricciardo lines up 6th just behind Felipe Massa at his home Grand Prix in 5th. Then it's Vettel and Rosberg on row 2 with Hamilton 2nd, but Kimi Raikkonen on pole for the Brazilian Grand Prix in the Ferrari. So it's 10th on the grid here for Carlos Sainz in Brazil for the penultimate round of the season, and he is fighting with the homeboy Felipe Massa, who has probably mixed feelings about this track. I don't want to go into them too much just in case there's any Massa fans watching, but does probably have mixed feelings about this track. But of course, if he can beat Carlos Sainz here today, he'll probably take a decent step to having more favourable thoughts about the Interlagos circuit. As you can see in the background, we're looking at a 3-stop again, though we were looking at a 3-stop for Mexico, and look how that turned out. We'll have to see whether the same things happen, but the 5 lights are now off here for the Brazilian Grand Prix, and we are underway from 10th on the grid. Felipe Massa and Pastor Maldonado, unlikely people in 8th and 9th, but Sainz has lunged up the inside of both of them. Now 3 abreast going through the second corner. Does it end well? Pastor Maldonado looks as if he's spun, but Massa has survived the incident. There's yellow flags out and there's a car off on the minimap, so we'll have to see who that was later at the end of the lap. Daniel Kvyat, meanwhile, is looking at the inside of his teammate Daniel Ricciardo, which will do the Aussie no favours in his battle with Valtteri Bottas in the championship, and he's been passed by his Russian whippersnapper of a teammate Daniel Kvyat. For 6th place now, Carlos Sainz in the smaller brother car is trying to go around the outside as well, and he's done the job. What a move that is from Carlos Sainz to make it up into P7. You can see Massa, there's one car between himself and the Brazilian, and that is Daniel Kvyat, which means the Russian now swiftly needs to be dispatched before Carlos Sainz can go after the Williams driver. It is a good start though, Sainz with 3 positions gained. You can see Naza, who's been passed by the Spaniard as well. He's sat behind Daniel Ricciardo looking for his first points for quite some time. Behind him though is the other Lotus, that's actually Romain Grosjean, so we'll have to see what happened to Pastor Maldonado because he looks to have disappeared. Meantime, getting in the slipstream now, Carlos Sainz of Daniel Kvyat in that Red Bull Renault in front of me, pulls out and makes the move stick easily before they even make it to the line, but there's a Ferrari in the pit lane. Why was there a Ferrari in the pit lane? Kimi Raikkonen has pitted on the first lap of this Grand Prix, which promotes Sainz now up into P5. Meanwhile, let's have a little look at the replay of turn 1 on board with Pastor Maldonado. We can see Massa and Sainz up the inside. There's 2 bits of contact. The second is what spins Pastor Maldonado into the infield, and he comes back onto the track and actually hits one of the Mana cars and goes off again and through the polystyrene board. So not good at all for Pastor Maldonado. 2 incidents on the first lap. And we'll refrain from making any Pastor Maldonado or Crash the Maldonado jokes or disaster Maldonado. Nevertheless, we are now up into P5 after Kimi Raikkonen strangely pitted on lap 1. Not sure if he had some sort of issue with his car, but his teammate Sebastian Vettel has just been passed by Felipe Massa, and Sainz needs to keep with the Brazilian, so he makes sure he lunges up the inside of the other Ferrari and now takes P4, so 6 positions gained after just 2 laps here of this Brazilian Grand Prix. It's looking pretty good for Sainz, and you can still see Felipe Massa in front of him. Daniel Kvyat is behind, so he's running really well for Red Bull, and now Lewis Hamilton is in the pit lane at the start of lap 4, so very interesting, it has to be said. Some very early pit stops in comparison to the strategy, and Sainz is being forced into one as well because his tyre wear was slightly extensive in comparison to what was expected. So he comes in on lap 6. And we'll have to see what the pit stop is like. He's already dropped to 12th place, and it's sort of a very similar theme to what went on in Mexico, actually. This exact thing happened in Mexico. The 2 Ferraris came in extremely early, though neither of them pitted on the first lap, it has to be said, in Mexico. But they both pitted very early in Mexico, and a lot of other people ended up coming in as well. And instead of the 3-stop, which looked like the traditional strategy for that Grand Prix, most of the field ended up doing a 4-stop, and that could happen yet again here today. Sainz out of the pit lane in 17th place in front of Daniel Ricciardo and a few others. Sebastian Vettel is now the man in front of him. He's stuck, though, behind the Manor Ferrari of Roberto Merri, and Sainz cannot afford to be stuck behind these two because Felipe Massa is up the road and, well, you know, he's not pitted yet, so the overcut is a decent, you know, possibility here. Lewis Hamilton has set the fastest lap of the race with a 1:13.4, and up the road, Will Stevens is coming into the pit lane to release Kimi Raikkonen. I think Kvyat is in as well, so Sainz is promoted up into 12th place after starting the lap in 17th, on to lap 7 and now lap 8, and Romain Grosjean is in the pit lane, which now promotes Carlos Sainz up into 11th place. There's some very different strategies going on, it has to be said, in this race, and up in front, Kimi Raikkonen, who is in 10th place now, has managed to catch quite a few drivers in front of him, and now some of them coming into the pit lane. Verstappen, Hulkenberg, and I think that was Nasser as well, coming into the pit lane. So some very different strategies, it has to be said here, as now Felipe Massa has come in the pit lane for Williams, and will Sainz beat Massa at the pit lane? He will fairly comfortably, and Sebastian Vettel will too. Raikkonen's making a move on someone in front, that's Fernando Alonso in the McLaren, and he's got through. Now onto lap 9, Raikkonen is stuck up behind the other McLaren of Jenson Button, but he's actually peeling into the pit lane for a second pit stop of the afternoon. What is the strategy in today's Grand Prix? Because people are pitting at very different times, and on the same lap as Felipe Massa and Valtteri Bottas pit, Raikkonen's in for a second pit stop of the afternoon, and there were plenty of people pitting on every lap in between. Meantime, Sainz got a shocker of a run out the CNRS, and Sebastian Vettel has lunged up the inside of him, with Jenson Button being dispatched in the process. So a lovely double move there from Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari to get past Sainz and take 3rd place. It's only the 2 Mercedes in front of these guys, and Massa and Bottas have been left out behind them. As you can see, Sainz getting a little bit out of shape, but still hanging it around the outside here of the German, but it doesn't look as if he's going to hold on or try and get the position back, but he gets a much better run out of the corner, and Vettel just gets completely out of shape. I don't know if he went wide or went off or whatever happened, but he loses the position, and Sainz is up to 3rd place, but Daniel Ricciardo in the Red Bull. I don't know the stats about this guy throughout the season, but I don't remember him retiring too many times throughout the season, but that is an engine blowout from that Renault power unit in the back end of that Red Bull, and that is Daniel Ricciardo out of the way and out of the race, and that is Valtteri Bottas with a face full of smoke from that imploding Renault engine. Meantime, just 19 runners left in this one. Sainz has been promoted to 2nd place and swiftly demoted to 3rd because Felipe Massa's gone through. One of the Mercedes has pitted. Again, I don't know the strategy. Lewis Hamilton is clearly the man who's pitted because he's down in 5th, but it seems as if Mercedes are going for split strategies. Rosberg's looking as if he's going for a 3-stopper, whereas Hamilton is looking at a 4-stopper. Sainz might try and extend to try and return back to a 3-stopper like he did in Mexico, because it certainly looks as if the Williamses are doing nailed-on 3-stoppers, and the Ferraris, like they did in Mexico, are going for a 4-stopper. with Raikkonen pitting on lap 1, so I don't really know what happened there. Meantime, Sainz is in for his second pit stop of the day and returning out of the pit lane on lap 14, just in front of Jenson Button in the McLaren, and behind this massive crew, this massive gaggle of cars, led by the Russian Daniel Kvyat, and at the back of it is Fernando Alonso. He's the first person to be overtaken by Sainz. In front of that is Marcus Ericsson, then it's Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel, Nico Hülkenberg, and finally at the front, as I mentioned, is Daniel Kvyat in the Red Bull. So Sainz managed to get past Fernando Alonso there in the McLaren. Next up is the Ferrari-powered Sauber of Marcus Ericsson, the Swede, hanging on to the coattails of the likes of Hülkenberg and Verstappen, who are on probably the outer peripheries of the points at the moment in this Grand Prix. Meantime, the cork in the bottle, Daniel Kvyat is into the pit lane, so everyone else is released from this battle. Meanwhile, up the inside of Marcus Ericsson goes Carlos Sainz to take 9th place, meaning that he's gained 2 positions on that start-finish straight. Nico Hülkenberg has also just managed to pass Sebastian Vettel, I do believe, or vice versa. I'm not entirely sure, but Vettel is trying to take the position back, whatever the circumstance, and he goes past the Force India driver. Now Sainz is setting his sights on his teammate Max Verstappen. The Dutchman is currently sat in 8th place, with Nico Hülkenberg in front of him in 7th. These guys probably battling for about a net 9th or something like that, and Sainz just breezing up the inside of Max Verstappen, who's only pitted once in this Grand Prix, hence everyone is a bit out of sync. That's why Hülkenberg and Verstappen were in front of Sainz in the first place. Therefore, Sainz has got much fresher tyres than the guys that he's around, including Vettel in front of him, and hence he lunges up the inside and Nico Hülkenberg, so he's not stuck up behind these guys for too long, and the Force India driver is dispatched at the end of that swift movement. Meantime, Valtteri Bottas is into the pit lane at the end of the start of lap 17, and he's come out of the pit lane and he is behind Carlos Sainz. Sainz now going through the Senna S on the next lap, lap 18. And it looks as if Felipe Massa is pitting, and indeed he is. He's coming out of the pit lane, and crucially is behind Sainz, but even more crucially is behind Valtteri Bottas. Sainz needs to gain all the points he possibly can on Felipe Massa. If he finishes this race behind Felipe Massa, he is almost certain not to beat him in the championship. Meantime, Massa is sort of practicing his skittles at the moment, because he's just hit Sainz, who has in turn hit Valtteri Bottas, and it's all getting a little bit feisty between Sainz and the Williams. He's got bad memories of the Mexican Grand Prix, where he got swamped by both of them on the final lap, and Sainz lunges up the inside. I assume Valtteri Bottas will not be happy with that, and he chucks his car back up the inside of Sainz with a bit of contact on the side pod, and Sainz is not having any of this. He barges him out wide into the next right-hander. Some fantastic touring car-like action between Sainz and Bottas, but with his tyres going off, he's understeered out wide through the next left-hander, and Bottas has been able to get back up the inside, but that was some proper wheel bashing going on between Sainz and Bottas, left and right. Every single corner, Sainz starts it, although he got hit by Massa in the first place. Then Bottas barges him out wide through the next corner. Sainz keeps it around the outside and then biffs him out wide into the next right-hander. Bottas sends up a hand of gesticulation through the next corner, and Massa even gets in on it again, and then Bottas breezes up the inside of Carlos Sainz. On to lap 21, and the Spaniard is into the pit lane for the 3rd time this afternoon, and he's going to stick on a set of primes because, to be honest with you, I don't think even he knows what strategy he's running at the moment. Everyone else is going for different strategies, and I think he's going to try and make these tyres go to the end, but that is probably extremely optimistic. It has to be said, these tyres have got to go for 15 laps, and the option tyres he's been running so far have only been able to do 7 or 8 at best. So 15 out of primes is one heck of an ask, but he's come out of the pit lane in 8th place behind Romain Grosjean, who swiftly pits, and on to lap 26. Carlos Sainz is coming down the pit lane and is up into 5th place after a few drivers come into the pit lane, including Sebastian Vettel. On to lap 27, and Felipe Massa is now coming out of the pit lane already. You can see the damage gauge is showing just how worn these primes are. They're never going to make it to the end, but Felipe Massa, who's only just pitted, will probably be able to make the harder compound go to the end of the race. On to lap 29, the orange is starting to arise in the damage gauge, and it's allowing Felipe Massa to get back at Sainz because he's got less worn tyres. Valtteri Bottas has already jumped both of them. They're both on the same tyre compound, are these two, but Massa's got sufficiently less worn tyres as they get very close going through that left-hander. So Sainz is holding on to 4th at the moment, behind the 2 Mercedes and behind Valtteri Bottas, but on to lap 30 with 6.5 laps to go. You can see the damage gauge. The front 2 tyres are practically gone already. They're orange. There's no way these tyres are going to make it to the end. Otherwise, we're going to see a puncture like we did in Belgium in Spa. So unfortunately, gonna have to pit at the end of this lap, which basically surrenders any hope of beating Felipe Massa in this race and relinquishes 4th place for Felipe Massa to take hold of. And into the pit lane for the 4th time in the race and of this afternoon, Carlos Sainz will come in. There's no point putting on another set of primes. You might as well go for a quick blast to the end on a set of fresh option tyres. So he sticks the yellow-walled option, softer compound tyres on. Kimi Räikkönen has gone through. Maybe he's a realistic target. Not entirely. In fact, actually, that's our back marker that's just gone through. So it doesn't seem as if Räikkönen is a realistic target. So we're probably looking at a 6th place here for Sainz, which crucially means he is 2 places behind Felipe Massa, which is disastrous in the championship because they're fighting for 7th place. And if Massa beats Sainz here, then Sainz can unfortunately pretty much kiss goodbye to any chance of beating the Williams driver in the championship. But on to lap 33 here. We're still in this 6th place with Kimi Räikkönen in front of us and coming across the line. It's actually a car in the pit lane. 4 laps remaining and Sainz is up into 5th place. Kimi Räikkönen, with 3 laps of this Grand Prix, has pitted again. And interestingly, intriguingly, Valtteri Bottas has as well in the Williams because he's now in front. He's in 4th. Bottas was in front of Massa, which at one stage must have led Sainz to believe Massa was going to pit as well. If one Williams was going to pit at the end of the race, maybe they both were, but it didn't materialise in the end. Massa, maybe it was some sort of team tactics to ensure that Massa could beat Sainz in the race. Bottas' main championship rival, Daniel Ricciardo, had already retired from the race, so that meant that Bottas was going to gain ridiculous amounts of points on the Aussie already, and it now means that Massa gains even more points on Ricciardo and manages to extend away from Sainz, which was probably the closer battle after today's Grand Prix. So Massa will take 3rd behind the 2 Mercedes, of which Nico Rosberg is out on top, which has, I do believe if my maths is correct, kept the championship alive by 1 point. So if Hamilton retires in Abu Dhabi and Rosberg wins the championship by 1 point. But Sainz is going to come across the line to take a very solid 5th. It's just a shame that his main title rival ended up coming 3rd. Otherwise, it would have been a pretty decent result. He still seems pretty happy with it. 8th in the championship is still going to be a very good result if he takes that for Toro Rosso, because he'll have beaten his teammate Max Verstappen, who is, I think, 9th in the championship at the moment. So it's a pretty good season so far for Toro Rosso nonetheless. There, meantime, is the confirmation of the race standings. Nico Rosberg winning the race from teammate Lewis Hamilton. Then it's the 2 Williamses with Massa in front of Bottas, Sainz in 5th. Then Räikkönen, who had a very strange strategy from Max Verstappen, taking a very solid 7th. Kvyat in 8th. Vettel way down in 9th after making 6 pit stops, and Fernando Alonso for McLaren taking 10th after making 1 less pit stop than pretty much everyone else, including Nasser, Grosjean, Ericsson, Perez and Nico Hülkenberg. Pastor Maldonado with a 5-second penalty and 8 pit stops, so a very, very disastrous race for him, and Daniel Ricciardo, the only man to be unclassified. In the meantime, let's take a look at the driver's standings, and I think, unless I've got the maths wrong, someone can correct me in the comments section, that's absolutely fine, but I'm fairly sure Lewis Hamilton is not quite the championship winner yet. He's not quite the champion yet. I think there's 1 point in it. I don't know. I think there is. I think there's 1 point in it. There's 24 points between Rosberg and Hamilton as far as my maths is concerned at the moment. Kimi Räikkönen has managed to extend away from Sebastian Vettel in the Ferrari fight, with Bottas now 20 points clear of today's only DNFer, Ricciardo. There's now only 2 points between the Aussie and Massa, who of course scored 15 points with 3rd, and it's Carlos Sainz in 8th, cut adrift slightly of Felipe Massa, it has to be said. Verstappen is in 9th after some solid points today in 7th, with Kvyat rounding out the top 10. He's extended away from Nasser, Button and Romain Grosjean, who are 11th to 13th respectively. The only man to score a point in the bottom end of the table was actually Fernando Alonso, who is now joint 14th with Nico Hülkenberg, so everything stays the same. And Sergio Perez, the other Force India driver, now only has 1 opportunity to score some points in this championship at Abu Dhabi, which is the next race and next time out. Hope you guys are looking forward to that finale of this series. If you really want to see a 100% finale, drop it in the comments section below. There might be a straw poll, I'm not entirely sure. In fact, there will be. Go on then. There'll be a straw poll in the description that will say yes or no to whether the Abu Dhabi race is a 100% finale. But nevertheless, I hope you have enjoyed today's episode, the penultimate round of the season here of Carlos Sainz career mode on F1 2015. Subscribe if you're new around here for F1 content, sprint mode and career mode, as well as MotoGP content and dirt rally content, hopefully in the future too. Like the video if you did enjoy it, though, for now. 40 likes would be mad, because, you know, there's only 400 odd subscribers on this channel, so 40 likes would be mental. And yeah, comment about enjoying the video if you enjoyed it that much. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a good day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.